Hello and welcome to the show both feared and revered by man and beast, the heliosblog. Today, Andrew Tate interviewed by George Janko. Let's get into it.
The reason she's alone is because she's difficult.
Women are not accepting the bare minimum.
Women fuck men they respect.
All the women who say things like, I'm strong, independent, I don't need no man, like, y'all impress me.
Women just gaslight each other and say what they want to hear.
About if you have problems doing business with somebody who cheats, you're never going to do any business. Unfortunately, he's also pretty right because it's
but
rife.
Not with partners though. I don't feel like you want to get in business with a partner. I mean, think about this. He shares a family bloodline with the person that he's robbing.
Yeah,
I'm nothing to him.
that's true, and that's
Indeed.
infallible logic.
So how can I even? For me, my girl, right? She's my partner.
Yeah.
I couldn't focus if I had to
Partner? That's a red flag.
come do this interview with you, and I know she's out somewhere. Now I have to think about what she's doing. It's taking away from me.
Yeah.
So if I'm breaking bread with a man and I'm doing business with him, I can't sit around wasting my time thinking about what he's doing.
And you're completely right, and I totally understand that. But as a honest individual, I have to sit here and be honest and analyze myself and analyze my own romantic relationships. Am I completely faithful in the traditional sense? No. Why is that? It's a good question. I can't say exactly why that is, but I think that probably the biggest decline in the Western world I have to accept, even though I partake in it and even though I am guilty of it. I think the biggest failing of the Western world is that men and women do not stick together anymore. I think it would fix a lot of problems.
I find that very fascinating that that's the problem. You teach men to be better men and to fix their problems. Don't run away from it. But you know that monogamy is a challenge for you. But you don't want to.
It's not a challenge. Monogamy is not a challenge for me. Monogamy is a decision that every man must make. But for you to make that decision, you have to sit down and decide that, this woman is worth me being monogamous to, which is fine. I think the biggest struggle that men have in the Western world today is finding a woman who they believe is worth being monogamous to.
Indeed. That's exactly the problem in 2023. Again, there's a reason. Guys, it's time for my theory on the West, okay? And I've said it before in previous episodes, but just in case you're here for the first time or you're a new watcher or whatever, here it is. So it's my opinion that womanist, wokist ideology, the actual purpose of it is to break up the family so that both people can be taxed, right? So what you do is, you prevent men and women from getting together so that you can tax two different households, right? And then these girls go and become single mothers or whatever, but they certainly can't get married. Girls that are indoctrinated in the wokest womanist ideology. And the men that grow up in these environments, they either become womanist, wokest losers who get married and then get divorced, or they find the RP and they get with a girl who's not trash. But a girl who's not trash, a girl who's not indoctrinated in the womanist, wokest ideology, and who, knows how to be a woman and not a man, she's most likely going to be an immigrant. And basically because the womanist, wokest ideology depresses the birth rate, because, men and women don't get together, they don't have children, you have to import immigrants, right? So what ends up happening is the men of your culture, of the dominant culture, what ends up happening is they marry immigrants. And the idiots marry girls in the dominant culture, get divorced, and then they either don't remarry or they remarry with an immigrant. And so what you get is this staggered generation of girls that are basically just milked by the government, right? Because they're taking child support and the government is taking a cut of it. While also taxing every single purchase they make. And of course, single women make lots of impulse purchases to feel better about themselves and their life, even though they've made horrible decisions. And so you get the new cycle, which is men of the dominant culture marrying immigrants, and the women of the dominant culture being basically losers who are indoctrinated and don't get married, and either don't have children or are divorcees and are single mothers, right? And the whole point of that is to increase the income of the country, right, through taxation. But of course, it causes a cancerous culture that hurts everyone. And it causes widespread misery and pain for both the men and the women of the dominant culture, who can't get together because the women are brainwashed. So, there it is. That's my theory on Western, wokeist, womanist culture.
I don't think men have a problem with monogamy as much as men have a problem finding a woman who they truly believe they should be monogamous to.
Right,
Also,
exactly.
That's something that's interesting about monogamy, because we can talk about this and it can be a very interesting conversation. In days of old, high value men, important men, kings, warriors, whatever, had multiple wives. And they had to look after the multiple wives, or they had mistresses, and they had children with them all, and they had to look after them all. In certain cultures today, that is still the case. In certain religions today, that is still the case. In the Christian world, in the Western world, we have said that's unacceptable. We should be monogamous.
Yeah.
But then you have the
Wait, we? But Andrew is Muslim, right? Or did he renounce Islam?
majority of men who are monogamous are cheating. The ones who are not cheating are using prostitutes sometimes, or going to strip clubs sometimes, or consuming pornography. So they're not truly, actually loyal. So you've moved the idea of a man having 3 or 4 women he loves and taking care of to a man having 1 woman he's supposed to love and doing a whole bunch of things in secret. You've just subsidized monogamy, and you've removed it all towards pornography and degeneracy. So then you have to sit and argue, well, why does so much degeneracy happen in the West? Is it because we are not allowing men to be more true to their instincts? This is all brand new thoughts for me, and I'm just speaking as I think. But let's look at another example, right?
Well, before, can I tap in with that? So what's your example, right? So I have an example, Christ. He gives me his way, and I kind of follow it. If I had to follow men...
Except Christ didn't get married or have children, so if you're following his way... But I understand what you're saying. What he's saying is, I follow the Bible's way. But that actually isn't Christ's way, because Christ didn't write the Bible. Humans did.
and their needs, I'd be burned up tomorrow.
And I don't think it's needs. I don't think men cheat because of needs.
Well, okay. Women cheat because of like feelings. They get an emotional attachment to them. Men cheat because of more lustful body type thing. I've never heard of a man being like, man, I can't wait to talk to Becky.
Of course, but I think a lot of it's also ego.
Exactly. So, but ego, what comes before ego? Or it comes after
Well, pride comes before the fall, right? That's what they say.
ego.
Yeah, a fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my thing is, yes, when I met here's my theory.
Yeah.
When I was out about and I was having fun, as a Christian man, I was waiting for the right woman.
Yeah.
And I came to this guy and he goes, I don't understand. I thought you were Christian. And I go, listen, bro, I'll be a good Christian man to a good Christian woman. When I find somebody who has good morals and I know that she'll have my back and she'll do good, and when God presents me that girl, I will be a good man to her. And he asked me something that changed my life forever. He goes, well, if you're the son of God and you're asking for his daughter, why would that father ever give you a daughter when you treat everybody else like garbage? And so I had to think. I think when it comes to blessings, I believe that it's given from God.
Yep.
And to move on to new blessings, you have to handle what you've been given.
Agreed.
So if I've been given the fame and the money and the access to women, God's monitoring me. Okay, are you going to go fool around, act like trash?
Can you be trusted?
Could you be trusted with this daughter that I have over here?
Yes.
Kind of like that picture where Jesus is holding a beautiful bear behind him, and then you're holding on to this lifestyle that you still want, but you're like, this is great. And God's like, no, give it to me. Show me you're ready for it, and then I'll present it, like any good father would be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This guy is a very good priest. Interesting. I know he's not a priest, but very interesting.
And I cleaned up my act. I was celibate, and I was showing him I'm trying now to be ready. And then I found a beautiful girl, and then I became monogamous, and then I have a good partnership. And here's the thing. I could lead that relationship anywhere I want. If I wanted to be opened, it could be there. Not saying that she's comfortable with it, but when it first started, I could plant the seeds into taking it in any direction that I want.
Correct.
It takes somebody with integrity to lead a woman in the right direction.
Indeed. Absolutely.
I tell people all the time, I'm in charge of the relationship. God is in charge of everything.
Yeah.
So when my girl looks at me to lead the house, I got to lead the house, but it's not from my needs.
Yeah.
Because if it was my needs, bro, she's out shit cold. That, like, she's not going to get the best out of it.
Of course.
But now I have a God looking at me and monitoring it. You got to love her like you love my church.
No, absolutely. Everything you're saying is completely true. And
Interesting. Yeah, that's right. So the point is, you serve through serving the family, and you serve the family by. Yeah, no, that's absolutely true.
And I agree with you. There's two ways we can answer the question. We can talk about it from a religious perspective and what you just described, and you're right, being a God-fearing man is going to lead a woman in the correct direction, because a woman is a reflection of her man. And that's why you see if a woman gets with a bad guy who does drugs, she ends up doing drugs and doing bad things, and a man can lead her in the wrong direction.
She comes from our ribs, metaphorically and physically and mentally, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm going to be, like you're saying, doing drugs, she's going to follow my lead.
Absolutely. But I'm just talking about it from a societal perspective. I'm making an overall societal observation, the fact that now we have monogamous societies, but because they're not truly monogamous, all of the desire is being outsourced towards degeneracy, as opposed to having a society where a man is allowed more than one wife, for example, and then the degeneracy isn't needed. You don't need pornography and you don't need prostitution if you're allowed to have 2, 3, 4 wives if you're successful. And the point I was going to make earlier is that...
And then it allows men to naturally compete. Those that want, multiple girls, a la spicy content, they have to work for it, and it incentivizes men to work really hard. But it also incentivizes a small fraction of ultra successful men to monopolize 99% of the female population. But of course, that's been the case from time immemorial. So, that's neither here nor there. That is the old system before they had enforced monogamy. It was exactly that. And it actually is still done in many parts of the world. And those parts where it's allowed, most men are lazy, do nothing people, because they know that no matter how hard they work, the quote-unquote Elon Musks of the world will take all the women no matter what. Because you could work as hard as you want and you'll never get that level of wealth.
In certain countries, this is still the case. And I'm just speaking here in generalities. I don't have proof for any of this, but if you look at Russia, right? Russia's a Christian nation. There's a lot of Muslims as well, but it's traditionally a Christian nation. But if you're a very rich, powerful Russian man, and I've been to Moscow, I can assure you, you have maybe 4 or 5 wives. Well, not wives, 4 or 5 girls.
Yeah.
And your wife understands about who the other girls are, and she doesn't really care. Don't look, don't care, don't ask. I have a Bentley, I have a big house, I have the children. He plays around with these other girls sometimes. I don't care, I'm his wife, and that's just how things are set up. That particular man who's very, very rich, he's not interested in pornography, he's not interested in prostitutes, he's satisfied, he has enough for whatever his ego desires or his heart desires. Then you look at the West, and you look at the most degenerate things which can possibly happen, which are actually levels above prostitution and pornography. If you look at Epstein's Island, for example, when you have very rich, powerful men, and they're told by the public sphere, you're not allowed to have more than one woman, but they don't have God to control them. They're godless. Then they say, okay, well, how can I satisfy myself if God's not restricting me? The society's saying I can only have one woman. I'm not allowed to have 4 or 5, which would satisfy me in some regard for my ego or unhealthy reason or whatever my reason is. So I'm going to end up doing things in private. I'm going to end up doing things in secret. And then you have...
And more degenerate than they would have done if they had access to that. Yep. Yeah, there is an argument to be made for that as well.
Epstein's Island appear. So it's kind of interesting. God is important, and God is extremely required to restrict people. But if you take the God out of the element, and you only use...
It's been done. That has already happened. In 2023, as they say, God is dead. Because if you look at Christian religions, most have been replaced. They've been supplanted by womanist wokist ideology. It's just hidden behind a mask of Christianity. And God would be very upset at that.
Society to try and restrict the sexual desires of people and tell them they have to be monogamous, you're going to end up with more degeneracy than if men were allowed to be polyamorous and have more than one wife. Does that make sense?
100%. And the reason why I asked you, is this generation more evil than the last? And I wanted to circle back how you said the West.
No, I don't think so. I don't think they're more evil than the last. I think from 1960 on, they're equally evil.
Is falling apart.
Yeah.
I believe that it's kind of, and I always go back to biblical references, not because I'm an annoying Christian, but I just like truth. And I notice that truth comes out of
Truth is most beautiful undraped.
these testimonies that I see. And the one thing that I've realized with humanity, God or no God, it's your access. And I think that's why God reflects the heart. He doesn't reflect your actions. He reflects your heart. Because let me give an example, pornography. I don't watch porn. The reason why I don't watch porn is, one, it's unhealthy.
For me, before you carry on, I don't watch porn because it's genuinely uninteresting. Like
It's gotten weird.
You could put porn on and I'd be like, I just don't get it. That's the thing.
And also, for example, I like to practice the monogamous relationship. So when I get married one day, I know my girlfriend's not going to be at the prime model look when she's 50 or whatever she is. So I got to practice that this is the only woman that I have. It's diligence. Okay, so opening up the access. Look at a man who's watching pornography. I fall off the wagon every once in a while. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm perfect. About a year, maybe 2 years ago, I was watching porn, and there was, back in the day when I was growing up, was like your stepmom. And to me, that was always weird because I'm like, dude, that's your, like, still, it's your mom. Now it's your mom. And then when I, like, last year when I tried, I did a KSI and Sidemen thing where it was Impulsive and Sidemen. We did this collab, and there was a girl who does porn there, and I made a joke, and I go, look, I'm stuck. And it went viral, and I realized, I'm like, everybody laughed at this joke because they know what I'm saying. And it's this porn style thing where if women are stuck, then men would come and have sex with them. That's rape.
Of course it is.
That's rape. And these men are enjoying this. So what is this teaching them? That you could take what doesn't belong to you. And I think a lot of the things that they're programming these kids to do actually comes first through pornography, because you watch it in secret and you're not really dabbling with your men what you're watching. It's kind of like a mustard seed that grows.
But then the question is, are they doing it on purpose?
Indeed. Is it being done on purpose? Is it being done to weaken the population? Is it being done for the purpose of control? And the answer to that is obvious. Of course it is. Because as many, it's just, bread and circuses, right? Eat the crappiest food possible, watch the crappiest stuff possible, have the worst attention span possible. It's, what's it called? It's children being raised with hurdles. And why? So that they grow up to be as weak as possible, as controllable as possible, as not a threat as possible. And 99% of the population cannot resist all the layers of BS that are thrown.
This is where you go deeper down the rabbit hole.
This video is sponsored by...
No. Sorry, we're just gonna move past that.
Society, who are these people? What is their end goal? Is their end goal the sexualization of children? Is their end goal 12-year-olds to sit there and watch pornography and want to have sex? Is their end goal to confuse 12-year-olds to want them to try and change genders? Is that their end goal? I don't know.
Their end goal is not that. Their end goal is creating weak, easily controllable puppets that are not a threat to their power.
Is that why they take down the country's flag and put up another flag? This is another thing you have to understand. We talk about the Western world being fallen.
Do you mind moving that mic towards your mouth?
We talk about the Western world being fallen. What even is the culture of the Western world anymore? We have...
Zero.
We have gang signs, and we have frozen food, and we have the pride flag. What else? Like, what even is there anymore that unifies us in any regard? I mean, I'm pretty sure, and I've never tested
the wokest religion.
This I don't want to find out. I'm under enough matrix attacks. But if you were to burn an American flag and burn a pride flag, you do more time for burning the pride flag. It's a hate crime. So you have to actually then understand is, okay, if this is destroying society, is it being done on purpose? And what is the end goal of it? And who's doing it in the first place? And then it gets really scary. I agree with everything you're saying about pornography, and I agree with everything you're saying about monogamy. I'm just trying to analyze the world and how it actually functions, and how do you fix these things? And
setting examples, leading by example. My question to you is this. Let's label this group of people that I want to label so we can circle back to it. What would you like to call them? The Matrix?
The Matrix.
The Matrix. So the Matrix is there. Do you feel like the Matrix is hyped up using media? Because think about it. When I walk around and I have discussions with people, not a lot of people have the same agenda that the media is having. And I think people are keeping up with it. So do you think they're flexing their power? Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
God is all powerful, all strong.
Yeah.
The devil isn't. But
Yeah.
what his power is lies.
Yeah.
So he confuses you. God uses faith. The devil uses fear.
Yeah.
Do you think the Matrix is just full of shit and they're just fear-based?
Oh, they're absolutely.
Indeed. Of course. Which is actually why you'll notice if you stop using TikTok, Instagram, X, Facebook, whatever, insert new app that kids will use in 5 years. If you stop using all of them, you'll suddenly feel a lot better and you'll have much more energy. I wonder why. Well, it's because the lies are lifted off your shoulders. You're not seeing them.
Absolutely fear-based.
So what is your goal? If you had to fight, like you are fighting, and you're banned from, what are you banned from? Like,
Everything.
but you're on Twitter.
Elon bought Twitter and restored me. Before this, I was banned on Twitter also. I'm banned on.
Why did you get banned?
I got banned because you get 3 lives. And the 3 lives are, first you get canceled and banned absolutely everywhere. And the second life is they try and put you in jail for something you didn't do. And then the third life is they assassinate you. And I'm now on my second life, as most people have experienced in real time. I got banned because I became monumentally popular. I became hugely successful. I became the most Googled person on the planet. And then they make up a reason to get rid of you. And I'm banned on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Uber, Airbnb, Gmail, WhatsApp.
You can't get an Uber?
I can't get an Uber, no. Gmail, WhatsApp, you name an
All
application.
for standing up for what you believe in.
Well, yeah. I mean, I made some satirical jokes, of course. And
Could
they
you
were
give me an
taken out.
example of something that you've said that you may have crossed the line?
I don't think I ever said anything that truly crossed the line. I'm going to stand by this because I don't believe in regrets and I don't believe in sitting here and saying sorry for anything because I'm not a coward. If I made a video 10 years ago that got 84 YouTube views and me and my brother were joking about how women can't park and women shouldn't drive,
Yeah.
and then I became the most Googled man on the planet, and then that is found, and then a bunch of feminists get upset by it,
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and beat myself up over that. That's life.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Shit happens.
But also, like, stand-up comedians make the craziest jokes. Like, I was in a comedy club, and they're already making jokes about Palestine. And
Of course. I mean, comedians make jokes and rappers sing about murdering people. So it's completely a double standard to come along and say that whatever I said was enough reason for me to be canceled.
Well, that scares me.
Well, again, it's not like he said it like it's my absolute belief and I'll never change it, right? It's like a joke that's said on a podcast. Like, it doesn't have to be that big a deal, right? That's the thing. People have such thin skin nowadays, and and I wonder why, right? Much. Why do you care so much? That's the real question.
Because censorship is the scariest thing to me
Bro,
in the world. At what point can we not worship our God?
My phone, the day the cancellation started, I'd open my phone and app by app, one by one, logged out, logged out, logged out, logged out, logged out. And in sync, I was sitting there for 2 hours, and every 20 minutes, a new one would just log out.
Were you scared?
I knew the Matrix was real. I knew how the Matrix operated. I knew that there's
But were
a
you
centralized
scared?
power. I was scared because I knew I'd used up my first life. And then I started saying on all my podcasts, they're going to put me in jail for something I did not do. When that happens, you have to know it's a lie. And I said it about 15 times. And then 7 months later, I ended up in a cell. So I understand exactly how the world works. So yeah, I was scared. But
Yeah, and what's the point, right? The point is everything is online. If you get too important, you can get pressed down by the powers that be. That's the thing, right?
I also believe, and I draw a lot of strength from my religion. We talk about God. I think God gives you strength. And I also believe one of the primary objectives of a religion, which ties back into what we were saying earlier about how the world could be fixed if men and women stay together and monogamy. I think the primary objective of a religion is to preserve a culture.
Right.
If a religion doesn't preserve the culture, then it's failing in some regard. You should look at a religion and look at the culture underneath that religion and say, okay, it's a successful religion because the culture is adhering to its creeds. So I understand that it is my battle, if I believe in God, to try my best to preserve the culture. And then you're asking, how do I fight the Matrix? I think you fight that via masculine empowerment, and I'll tell you why.
Indeed.
Because we were just sitting here talking about how the devil uses fear, and you're completely correct. And I think that women are easier to scare than men. And I think that now we live in a society, especially in the West,
Where the men are listening to the women. But not only that. It's a primarily like feminine-based society, which means what girls are scared of is what the society is most scared of. What girls want is what the society wants, as it were. But that isn't what built the most powerful societies. And in fact, when women take over the society, that's when it declines. You can look at the Roman Empire and so on.
Women have been empowered to the point, I'm not against female empowerment, I'm not a misogynist, but they've been empowered to the point where they're more powerful than men in most scenarios. They're more powerful than men in the divorce court, most powerful than men in the custody court, more powerful than men in terms of the education system, more powerful than men in terms of their testimony, more powerful than men. I'll give you endless examples. If 10 men get murdered, nobody cares. If 10 women get murdered, it's going to be a national news story for weeks. Their life is more valuable. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be. It always has been because they can create life. My point is we now live in a society which I believe is a matriarchy. It's feminized. And men are feminized by extension. And men being feminized means that women are in charge and women are fearful. So let me give you a very simple example of why I believe masculine empowerment is how we actually get closer to God and how we fix the fight we're in against the matrix. COVID was emotional arguments. They came along and said, your grandma's going to die. The old people, your grandma. They used emotional arguments to create fear. That works on a woman. A woman sits there, I love my grandma. Most men would sit there and go, wait.
Let's just chill.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Grandma's already 94. Grandmas die. So I don't think we should be taking our kids out of school. Let's just calm down. Men are more stoic and more patient. If you had a household where the man's been feminized and the woman's in charge, it's over for that house. They're full COVID cucks head to toe. 10 vaccines. If you had my household, where my girlfriend ran in, did you see the news? Shh. Shut up. It's stupid.
Okay,
and then it's fixed.
So wait.
But this is the point. Fear. You're talking about fear, the devil using fear. Absolutely correct. How does he scare people? He scares cowards. He scares people who can't fight. He scares women. He scares people who are not prepared to stand up and resist. So masculine empowerment is absolutely and utterly how you battle the devil. You need men to be as strong and capable as possible.
Okay. This is a great pivot.
There you go. All right. Again, if you want to watch the rest of the interview, I've already told you who did it. I'll just repeat it. It's George Janko. So just Google or YouTube George Janko, Andrew Tate. There it is. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Hit the like, hit the sub, hit all the notifications. Drop me a donation like Hunter M, Adrian L, Tom and Bobby, Dylan, Renaissance Press, and Brian. Shout out to you, most recent Patreon subscriber. Thank you. Go buy my books at bit.ly/heliosblog. My Patreon can be found at patreon.com/theheliosblog. If you'd like coaching, message me at theheliosblog@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Oh, I forgot to mention, lots of people have been complaining about the microphone levels. Please, in the comment, tell me exactly how you'd like me to adjust it. Does it need to be 50% quieter? Does it need to be 25% quieter? Does it need to be 10% quieter? Am I too loud? Am I too quiet? Again, if I don't know, I can't adjust. Okay? It needs to be specific. If it's just make your microphone quieter, guys, there are like 100 settings on this thing, and I'm not sure what the audience prefers. Okay? Because I am adjusting the mic to a level that I think is okay. When I listen to it in my headphones or when I'm listening to my own videos, I think it's fine. So you tell me. Okay? All right, guys. Thank you.